Hi, my name is Sabine Zimmermann and you're listening to Postcards from the Province, our podcast for the regions of Europe. In March, the Network for Culture and Local Traditions, in cooperation with the bidding office Hildesheim 2025, organized the Province Lab. We invited 8 international experts who visited Hildesheim and the region and exchanged with the locals. Now, 2 months later, we talk again. What changed in Europe in the meantime? And how can we take the next step from European capital to European province of culture? Today I'm talking to Viktoras Bachmetjevas from Kaunas, from Lithuania, and I'm very happy that you are here with us, Viktoras, and I'd like to warmly welcome you, and I also like to introduce yourself to our audience.
Hello, so as you said, my name is Viktoras Bachmetjevas and I'm a philosopher from Lithuania. I teach at Vytautas University in Kaunas.
Viktoras, you took part in our Project Province Lab. It's been in March, well, obviously ages ago in these times, but still only 2 months ago. So, and you have been to a place called Sibesse. It's a small village, and when you think of it, what are your experiences or impressions about it?
So when I was invited to come to Hildesheim and Sibesse, I have to be honest, I knew almost nothing about it. And so in a way, it was good because I came with no preconceptions, with my eyes open. Mm-hmm. And if there is one word which I have to describe Sibesse, I would say typical. And by typical, I mean a typical European town. And every time I went there, I think 2 or 3 times during my stay in Hildesheim. I would the same idea would come back to me that if we look for a DNA of Europe, if we look for a type of where Europe was born, it is these small, typical villages or towns in the midst of Germany or Belgium or France that are the core of Europe. So for me, it was really interesting and inspiring to visit Sibesse and to spend some time there.
Mm-hmm. This is really very interesting to see Sibesse as the DNA of Europe, or maybe the core of the European identity. This is a very interesting aspect. I've never thought about it like this, and maybe this is for the people of Sibesse very interesting to hear that too. I will tell them. I promise you. As I said before, it's been ages in these times that we met, and maybe we do not know what time will bring this year and what summer will bring, and where to start our holidays if we have to stay at home or in our country. What about the open borders in Europe? We are not sure about that, of course. Nobody can see into future. But you said you came here with an open mind and with no expectations. But to be honest, we invited you because of your expertise that you have in your job and in your country. And maybe you could tell our audience a little bit more about your work in Lithuania and what you do and what you're doing to make your region worth living.
So, as I said, my main occupation is I'm an academic philosopher, so my main job is that I teach. but I also do other things. For some time, I was an advisor to the Minister of Culture in Lithuania, and part of my responsibilities were media policy, but also I was tasked with reviewing the network of cultural institutions in the country. So that was one thing which I brought with me to Hildesheim, and tried to share my experiences of how small regional cultural institutions can be activated, can be re-energized, because there's obviously always lack of resources in terms of money and people. Also, as a hobby, I am a publisher. I publish intellectual books, so that's also a huge part of my work and life. It's mostly a hobby, but as it happens, sometimes hobbies take up a lot of your time if you're passionate about them. So I publish intellectual philosophical books. And also I'm involved in Kaunas with trying to make philosophy more visible in the city. So these are probably things which might be of interest to your listeners.
And you said you may want to make philosophy more visible. How do you do this?
Well, one thing which I was involved with was that we have a philosopher who was born in Kaunas and who later emigrated to France and became a prominent thinker in Emmanuel Levinas. For me, it was really strange that people in Kaunas are not really aware of him. So a few years back, we made an initiative to name a city square after Levinas, so that people would be more aware of this thinker. Also, I organize public readings and seminars where anyone who is interested can come and participate without any preparation. So it's outside academia. It's not only for students, but for the general public. I also organize public lectures and talks. So these are things which I like to do. I like to engage people in philosophy. I like to make them read. Yeah, so that's in short. That could be a short summary of the initiatives.
So it was even more interesting for you. I didn't realize, to be honest, I didn't realize that when I matched you with the Sibbesse publishers and these local authors and writers from Sibbesse, that it matches so perfectly. I didn't realize that before. Even more wonderful combination. So, but what do you think if you compare your region and our region? Are there similarities, or are there more aspects that divide the both of it? What do you think?
Well, Kaunas and Hildesheim both are marked with this mentality of not being the center of attention, being not just regional, but kind of on the outside of all the things. So Kaunas is always in the shadow of Vilnius in Lithuania, and Hildesheim obviously is in the shadow of Hanover and Berlin probably. And so this is an obvious similarity, which I think, at least my lessons in Kaunas tell me that for the most part, it can be an obstacle. But so the attempt should be made to free yourself from this shadow. And to free yourself from this shadow is basically to forget about that center, not to think about it at all, to realize that what you're doing is not to impress someone who is bigger and better resourced, but to understand that culture, things that you do is for yourself, not for someone else, not to show off that you're doing these things, but it's got value in itself. So when this happens, when this mentality changes, you stop being on the outskirts, you become the center. Because there's passion, and that passion attracts attention, and then suddenly you become the center of attention. So I think that's the lessons which I learned in Kaunas, trying to do the initiatives which I do, and that's what I try to transmit to the people I met in Sibesse. That first and foremost, you have to do what is interesting for you, not anyone else. And then the rest will follow.
I totally agree with you that we are not aware of our treasures we have, and we are not that self-confident to stand for ourselves. But let's come back to Sibesse once more. When you think of Sibesse and the area of Sibesse with all its small villages around, what do you think? What is the most treasure of this area of this region, or what would you suggest people to discover in Sibesse, for instance?
I think maybe it will sound quite trivial and naive, but I think the treasure is always the people. The biggest treasure is the people. And so when we spoke in Sibesse with the cultural activists, with the group, I tried always to divert attention to how we get the people together, how we get them out of their houses, how we get them onto the streets, how we get them to meet each other, how we build the community, and the community which means that individuals have ties to each other, and that's the biggest capital, which is anywhere in any country, any region of the world. The rest is just an addition, so to speak. So that's the same, I think, in Kaunas, in Berlin, and in Hildesheim and in Sibesse. It's the people.
Yeah. So we need to stay in touch and need to stay in conversation with each other. Would you agree?
Absolutely. I think creating a community has to be the first and foremost goal of any cultural activity. After that, you can start talking about maybe values that will be of bigger importance, that will be valuable to someone outside, that what we spoke about, becoming a center of attention. But this can't be the goal, the first goal. The first goal is about getting people together who live there already.
Yeah. Yeah. So we need places to meet and places to act with each other. And
absolutely.
It could be a chair in front of the house, for instance. Or Well, yes. I know exactly what you mean. Thank you very much, Viktoras. It was a pleasure to talk to you. And actually, I would have been in Kaunas next week if we didn't have this virus. Yes.
So you would have come for the forum.
Yes, indeed. And now it happens in a digital way. So I will be there in digital format, but unfortunately not in reality. So I think we will meet someday in Kaunas, but it won't be next week.
I'm sure we will.
And
I'm sure we will.
Yeah, and I hope we will meet in Hildesheim again. And I would love to see you here again and welcome you again in Hildesheim. And first, let me thank you again for this interview and have a good time and see you. Okay?
You too. Thanks a lot. And stay safe and stay healthy. Yeah. And thanks for calling me.
Yeah.
It was a pleasure to visit Hildesheim, and hopefully that will happen again.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye-bye. Ciao.
Ciao.